but someone knows something, yet everyone plays ball. I say we round them all up. Let's brain fingerprint them all.
Hello everybody, this is Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover the Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey cases, but also as time passes I've been covering other cases such as the Staircase or OJ and many wrongful convictions of youth. I go over the documents, the photos, the videos, anything case related, so stay tuned because I have many more videos just like the one you're about to see. Hello folks, quite an interesting day. So I have prepared this video here for you today to watch. It's a video of very strange and interesting things regarding the Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey cases, things that stand out. As I was recording this and putting this together, I found out that we got a decision from the appeals court in terms of the quick DNA testing. So instead of saying anything about it here, I'm just going to say we will be addressing that. Travis and I will be addressing that. For those of you who are watching this premiere, as it airs in its first time. For those of you who are watching this, we will be covering that tonight. Go ahead and be looking for that. My mods may even be posting the links for that right over here. So, just a busy day, folks. Wow, but I really want everybody to check this video out, share it around, show it to people who maybe aren't as up on the Avery Dassey cases, because this video really points out some of the things in this case that just cry out, look at me, look at how fishy I am, look how strange I am. That's what these items or these issues that I raise in this video really cry out and ask. So just wanted to give everybody that, heads up. Yes, the decision came through. We'll be covering that later. Please enjoy this video, which you should find very interesting. Video of a list of things within the Avery Dassey cases that are just strange and somewhat difficult to explain in the eyes of many. So these are 5 things. Now there's many other things, and I'll probably be doing follow-up videos with this list type theme when it comes to Avery Dassey. But this right now today is just going to be 5 things that are probably the things that stick out probably the most about the Avery Dassey cases. 5 things about them that I'm putting together here in this short little video, just to bring them all together into one short video so that people can understand some of the issues with these cases in a very quick and understandable way. So what we're going to show you today is 5 different things about the Avery Dassey cases that are strange and we should all find interesting. So we're going to move into the first one right now, which is the fact that Stephen is reported to the FBI as a murder suspect, and I have the document here, as a murder suspect on November 3rd. Okay, let me just point out a couple reasons why that's a problem. The RAV4 is not officially found, according to all vocal accounts or verbal accounts. The RAV4 is not officially found until November 5th, 2 days after the 3rd, correct? The bones that are supposedly, Teresa's bones that were found in Stephen's burn pit were not found until the 8th. So it is more than just a little odd that we see the FBI that Stephen is being reported to the FBI as a murder suspect on the 3rd. And wait till you hear just how many minutes it was after Teresa Halbach's mother made the phone call to report her missing. It's not, minutes. How many minutes? Yeah. Some of you may remember or recognize the gentleman who's narrating this first document. Good friend of the channel, Mr. Sean Atwood. So, here we go.
Hello, Sean Atwood here, activist in London. On the screen is an FBI subject activity report showing Stephen Avery was accused of being involved in a homicide, i.e. he was a murder suspect, just 154 minutes after Teresa Halbach was reported missing. Her bones had not even been found. This has just recently been released. It's an FBI Uniform Crime Reporting Program National Incident-Based Reporting System Activity Report, released by the state of Wisconsin. It's campaigner Skip Top under Freedom of Information, showing Stephen was accused of homicide at 6:34 p.m. on the night of November 3rd, 2005, which means they started to frame him just 154 minutes after the police had opened a missing persons case.
Now, I know that some of you who've never seen that before are right now just going, like, what? Huh? Right? Yeah. That's not the only thing that happened on the 3rd. Okay? So we'll leave the fact that Stephen was reported to the FBI as a murder suspect on the 3rd of November, 2005. We'll leave that now behind and move on to the next thing that happened on the 3rd. That is that the RAV4 was logged in as impounded by by Manitowoc or Calumet on the 3rd. You're going to see right now. I'm going to show you the document for it. So now we have a document that's telling us that law enforcement had the RAV4 impounded on the 3rd, according to their own documents, their own records. So I'm going to show you that now, and then we're going to go into a few other things that it leads into with the RAV4. Okay, so this is something from the Manitowoc County reports, where they show, just want to call your attention to it right over here, folks. Right here, 11/3 of 2005, evidence seized, automobile, Toyota RAV4, dark green. We all know what they're talking about. They're logging this into evidence right here, folks. This is when they're logging this into evidence. So this is supposedly when this thing is entered into evidence. Going along with the account of Kevin Ramlow, there is considerable questions about this RAV4, when it was actually taken into custody, and all that sort of stuff. So just thought I'd show everybody that. All right. So you clearly see by their own documentation that they show that they have impounded the RAV4 on the 3rd of November. But yet it's not officially found until the 5th of November. It's odd. And this is why I call attention to it. But now we're going to go ahead and call further attention to the oddities about this. Because now we have another affidavit. An affidavit from somebody who was in the area that day in Mishicot. And gives a report of seeing the RAV4 and reporting it to a sheriff's deputy. Okay? We're going to just move into it right now so you can see and exactly what transpired. And you can see what I mean by it creates more and more doubt as to whether or not the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department and or possibly Calumet knew about this RAV4 before the 5th. And that is a significant issue. So let's move into Kevin Ramlow's affidavit right now so he can explain to you what happened on the 4th of November at the Cenex gas station. Here we go. Affidavit of Kevin Ramlow. Let's see. In 2005, I lived near Mishicot, Wisconsin. I am familiar with the Taddock family and am acquaintances with Sean Taddock. Sean's brother Scott is now married to Stephen's Avery's sister Barb. On November 3rd of 2005, I was in Mishicot and I saw Teresa Hallbach's vehicle by the East Twin River Dam in Mishicot on the turnabout the bridge as I drove west on Highway 147. Around midday on November 4th of 2005, I stopped at the Cenex State gas station at the intersection of Highway 147 and State Street in Mishicot. While there, I saw and read a missing person poster for Teresa Hallbach. I remember that the poster had a picture of Teresa Hallbach and written description of Teresa Hallbach and the car she was driving. I recognized the poster attached as Exhibit A in this affidavit as a copy of the one I saw at the Cenex station on November 4th of 2005. I recognized that the written description of the vehicle on the poster matched the car I saw at the turnabout by the dam. While I was at the Senex station, a Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department officer came into the station. I immediately told the officer that I had seen a car that matched the description of the car on the Teresa Hallbach's missing person poster at the turnaround by the dam. In December of 2016, I was watching Making a Murderer. In this series, I recognized the officer who I had talked to at the Senex station on November 4th of 2005. A photograph of this officer is attached as Exhibit B in this affidavit. Having watched Making a Murderer, I know his name is Andrew Colburn. Okay, sticking with the RAV4 still a bit more, and how seemingly obvious it is that law enforcement had knowledge of it, where it was, and seemingly could have been impounding it prior to the 5th when it was officially found. Okay, to give further kind of evidence to this, or to give further credence to this, I'm going to play the Colburn call where he calls in the plates to dispatch on his phone. Did not on the radio, but on his phone. Okay, I'm going to play this call for you and listen in the background. The moment that the dispatcher says to Andy that it comes back to Teresa Hallbach, as soon as Hallbach comes out of the dispatcher's mouth, you can hear in the background, and some people are trying to say it's the background of dispatch. I doubt it, seriously, because somebody at dispatch, number one, would not say cars here. If somebody at dispatch would have said, oh, cars there. Like, that's the way that they would have spoke, okay? Because they weren't actually on scene. Only somebody right there would say cars here. Okay, as soon as they had confirmation that that was the right, license plate and everything. I mean, literally, the moment she says Teresa Hallbach, you hear somebody in the background. So you're gonna hear the audio clip here several times, and then it's even gonna be slowed down a couple times. And I leave it for everybody to make their own judgments here, but I believe this gives further credence to the fact that law enforcement / Andy Colburn knew where this RAV4 was and had contact with it prior to the 5th, where it was found at Avery Salvage. So I'm going to play that call for you now. Here we go.
Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, this is Lynn.
Lynn,
Hi, Andy.
can you run Sam William Henry 582?
Okay, it shows that she's a missing person, and it lists to Teresa Hallbach.
Okay.
Okay, that's what you're looking for, Andy?
99 Toyota.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. Bye-bye. Teresa Hallbach.
Okay.
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 Hallbach.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so to recap, number 5 was the reporting of Stephen Avery to the FBI as a murder suspect on November 3rd, 5 days prior to them finding bones that they believed were to be Teresa Hallbach's. Okay, so we have that was number 5. Number 4 is the impounding and the apparent obvious contact that law enforcement was having with the RAV4 prior to the official finding of it on the 5th. Okay, so that was number 4. The unofficial interactions with the RAV4 prior to its official finding on the 5th. Now, you may think, okay, now we're done with the RAV4. We won't be talking about that anymore. No, sorry. Number 3 is still about the RAV4. It's Ryan Hillegas telling investigators that the damage to the driver's front side, or the driver front blinker assembly, basically, that damage occurred prior to October 31st, that Teresa had claimed it on her insurance, and that she had gotten a lump sum but just had never fixed it. Now, this personally, when I first heard this account, I went, that doesn't sound like Teresa. That totally doesn't sound like Teresa. But maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe Ryan's telling the truth. So, but we find out in Zellner's investigations, Teresa made no such claim. There is no proof of any claim. Okay, and you only need and the real proof that there is no that the state cannot prove that this damage happened prior to the 31st is because when they restarted the Halbach investigation in September of 2017, when they reopened it and were going around and interviewing and reinvestigating and doing some things, one of the people they went and talked to was Mike Halbach, and they have Mike Halbach, the victim's brother, digging through all of his old computers, desperately hoping that he has a picture of the RAV4 with that damage. But he even admits he doesn't think he does. He's just hoping. Even Mike says it. He's just hoping. But they are that desperate that they are having the victim's brother go digging through all of his old computers in the hopes that he can find one. And I think that pretty much sums it up, really, right there. That the state doesn't have proof that this damage existed prior to the 31st, and therefore they cannot refute the claims that stem from, well, item number 4, which I just got done explaining. This, where Ryan Hillegas is lying about a supposed insurance policy, only creates more problems for that. So I'm going to move into now the part where we see the documentation of the fact that Ryan was telling investigators that she had reported this to insurance and gotten a lump sum and just had not repaired it. Here we go. At the bottom here, Special Agent Fassbender ultimately spoke to Ryan Hillegas, a friend of the Teresa Halbachs. Hillegas did some checking with the family and friends and reported back to Special Agent Fassbender that Halbach had, in fact, damaged the parking light area of her car and actually made an insurance claim. Hillegas advised that Halbach took a cash payout for the damage and had not repaired it. Dear Attorney Zellner, you served a subpoena in the above captioned action seeking any record for police number Q03311-1002, Wisconsin, listed to Teresa M. Halbach, reflecting a claim for damage to a driver's side parking light between 2003 and 2006. Pursuant to your subpoena, Erie has made a diligent and exhaustive search of its records and finds no such claims to have been presented under the Erie policy between the years 2003 and 2006. Alrighty, a little interesting little thing here with Mike Halbach. Investigator Dietering went to speak with him about, received a phone call from Mike Halbach. Michael advised he was not able to find the video depicting the damage of the left frontal directional light on Teresa Halbach's RAV4. Michael stated that he has been through several computers since the time he believed the vehicle, he videotaped the vehicle, and has one or two more places that he can search. So I guess we might find out more about that later. Michael advised that he did not have independent recollection as to whether the damage to Teresa's RAV4 existed, and he was actually hoping that the video would prove it was there. So, to me, what this comes down to is you hear people out there saying that, oh yeah, Teresa did file an insurance claim on it, but it wasn't with her insurance, it was with somebody else's. Well, guess what? If that was the case, if that were true, Dietering wouldn't even be bothering with this. Having Mike Halbach go digging through all of his old computers, all the drives, all the files, and looking for this, little needle in a haystack. They wouldn't be doing that if they had proof of that damage. They don't have proof of that damage existing prior. Okay, so those aren't the only things about the RAV4, but those two definitely have to make it into the initial top 5 here. So those are issues with the RAV4. It's obvious contact with, obvious that law enforcement was having contact with it prior to the 5th of when it was officially found. And then we have the account of Ryan Hillegas saying that Teresa had claimed that damage on her insurance, had gotten a lump sum and hadn't fixed it. Well, I think I've effectively proven that is untrue. So that was number 3. Now we're going to move into number 2. Number 2 reason to have some suspicion about what was going on with the Avery Dassey cases is going to be Brendan's confession. Oh yes. It's an abomination that cries out to be corrected, and only agents of Wisconsin can seem to get on board, can seem to like block the obvious, the obvious flow of the tide here and the obvious flow of the river here. They are obstructing it. They will not admit that what they did to Brendan was wrong. And no matter how much of the world is jumping on board that train, they will not own it. They will continue to fight it. I've had an FBI agent on here, a retired FBI agent here on my channel, who tells us that what Fassbender and Uyghur did to Brendan is absolutely unconscionable. He doesn't know how they sleep at night after what they did. I mean, seriously. So we're gonna show you a little bit of Brendan's confession here, just to kind of illustrate that a little bit, and then we're gonna move into the big main number one for right now in this point in time, and that's to do with the quick DNA testing and the fact that the bones in question, well, at least most of them, may have already been given back to the Hall box. So let's go into Brendan's confession here real quick, and then we'll move on to that.
We know that Teresa had a tattoo on her stomach. Do you remember that? Do you disagree with me when I say that?
No, but I don't know what it was.
All right, that what you just saw was the control question. Okay, many people on my channel have heard me talk about this, but for those of you who are watching this video and don't really know about it, let me explain. The control question is something that Tom Fassbender and other agents of the state of Wisconsin bring up pretty much any time they're on an interview and they're talking to somebody about this case and stuff. And they bring it up and they say that it's proof that Brendan was resisting during the interrogation. Therefore, his confession is voluntary. And that's the way they present it. Now, you heard just what just happened there is Tom Fassbender says, we know Teresa had a tattoo on her stomach. Completely made up fact. It's absolutely untrue. Teresa did not have any such tattoo on her stomach. It's a made up fact because they're trying to test him. They're trying to test the veracity of his honesty, basically. So if he had answered it correctly, it would have given further credence to their assertions that Brendan was resisting him. But that's not the way it went down, unfortunately. So they ask him, Brendan says, and had they stopped right there, their control question would have been a success, because they would have made up a fact, Brendan would have denied it, that would have seemed like, that would have been something that seemed corroborating that Brendan was denying things that were fake, okay? So that's the whole point of the question, right? He first denies it. He says, For some reason, that's not enough for Tom Fassbender. Maybe he doesn't like the answer, feels it's not quite concrete enough. I don't know, whatever it was, Tom Fassbender goes one step further, and he asks Brendan, do you disagree with me? Okay, pretty much immediately, Brendan goes, no, and then he stops to think, because he was so quick to spit out the no, because he did not want to be seen to be in disagreement with the investigators. This proves just exactly how malleable and suggestible Brendan is. That it does not prove that Brendan is resisting. This proves exactly the opposite of that. And how the agents of the state of Wisconsin go around continuing to say that this proved Brendan was resisting is mind-boggling. But what's even more mind-boggling than that is that the learned judges, supposedly learned judges, over at the majority, over at the en banc, at the 7th Circuit, they represented it the same way. They chose to say that clip was Brendan resisting. And I'm going to play it for you guys again one more time here. After I've talked about it here, I'm going to play it one more time for you guys so you can watch it again. Maybe even rewind it and watch it a couple times if you want. But I'm going to play it one more time here, and then we're going to move into the quick DNA testing and the possibility that the bones that Zellner wants to test may have already been given back to the Hall box, and therefore it may be a moot point, because it would seem that the state, if they've given these bones back to the Hall box already, that to me is pretty much a stipulation that they agree that those bones over in the Manitowoc gravel pit and stuff were Teresa's. So we'll get into that here in a second, but I'm going to play the control question clip one more time for you, play another clip for you, and then we'll come on back.
We know that Teresa had a tattoo on her stomach. Do you remember that? Do you disagree with me when I say that?
No, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, but I got a question.
What's that?
What would happen if he says something, like his story is different, but he says he admits to it doing it?
What do you mean?
Like, if his story's like different, like, I never did nothing or something.
Okay, I just want to point out what you're kind of seeing there. What he's saying is, what if he says something different? And what if he says, like, he did everything, and Barb's like, oh, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He goes, and then he said, and then then Brendan says, like, if he says I didn't have anything to do with it and I didn't do nothing. Okay, what this is Brendan trying to figure out a way that the truth can actually help him. He's trying to figure out how, if Stephen, because he probably remembers from earlier in the interrogation where the officers were telling him if Stephen was to start talking and saying you did all this stuff or whatever, you know, you would have to deal with that or whatever kind of thing. So Brendan's like thinking about it. He's like basically kind of reverse engineered it. He's thinking, well, wait a second. If Stephen could speak to condemn me, maybe Stephen could speak to exonerate me. And that's what he's reasoning right there. In his very simple mind, his mind that clearly has a very simple understanding of the world around him, he actually is contemplating the possibility that if Stephen were to, in his mind, tell the truth and say that he didn't have anything to do with it, that could help him. That, to me, is the sign of somebody who didn't have anything to do with it, along with all the other problems with this confession. But that is, to me, a significant point where Brendan is basically theorizing that somebody telling the truth could set him free because he didn't have anything to do with this.
Did you? Huh?
Not really.
What do you mean, not really?
They got to my head.
Huh?
Didn't say anything.
Okay, so that's the infamous "they got to my head" statement from Brendan. And it follows right after that statement that I showed you where he was talking about how, what if Stephen said something different? What if he said I didn't have anything to do with it? That type of stuff. That's him. He's thinking about all these things. Him saying "they got to my head" follows that almost immediately. It shows that he was overwhelmed. It shows that his will was overbore. I mean, it shows a lot of things, but that's the issues, kind of with Brendan. We're going to now move into the quick DNA testing that Zellner wanted to do on the bones that were found at the Manitowoc County gravel pit. The reason why this is important is because she wanted to prove that those were Teresa's bones and that they were somewhere besides Avery's property and somewhere besides Avery's burn pit. And that if those are Teresa's bones, it really would show that the Manitowoc County gravel pit was actually the original burn location. And that it would make absolutely zero sense that Stephen would have brought bones back to his own doorstep from there. But what gets more interesting here is that what we found in our research here with the wrecking crew, the Cozy's wrecking crew, and everybody that we're researching here on my channel, and we're researching this stuff, we found that it looks like most of these bones that Zellner's asking for would appear may have already been given back to the Hall box. So I'm going to go ahead and play these clips here for you guys, and we'll come back and talk about it again in a minute.
So then, we get into what Dr. Eisenberg had to testify to here in paragraph 2.
So Dr. Leslie Eisenberg was unable to identify the bone fragments behind Mr. Avery's garage as anything other than those of an adult female, no older than between 30 to 35 years of age. Also identified human bones from the Dassey Yonda burn barrel, but she did not offer an opinion that the bones were female. Oh, interesting.
On those particular bones, the
burn barrel, on the Dassey burn barrel, right?
Yeah.
Right. So then we got Let's see. Dr. Eisenberg testified that there was a possible human pelvic bone in the Manitowoc gravel pit. Dr. Eisenberg was never questioned about the two other bone piles with multiple human bones identified by her, which were present in the Manitowoc gravel pit.
Do you happen to have that that map that shows? If you have it handy, great. If not, just keep going. But
map.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, no, this is good. All right, so you see that red dot? It's basically in a center of that pond. If you can move your cursor around that so everybody knows what we're talking about. Yeah. And then in the upper right-hand corner in this area, up to the upper right,
Conveyor road?
It's that other area is going to be, so go back to that previous photo.
All right.
So had a lot of help from a lot of your subscribers today over in the Google chats. And,
Yes, by the way, I want to say, by the way, that reminds me, I want to say something. A lot of people were working on this today, folks, to bring this to you guys. Travis, Allie, and some others. They were busy digging up all this stuff so that you guys could clearly see the point that we're trying to make here. So they did an excellent job. Everybody should give them a hand. Not that they'll be able to hear it from wherever you are, but they did a great job.
So Julie, one of your faithful, prepared this particular document. So you can see this straight line between these two dots.
Right.
Now the county quarry, the county gravel pit, we'll just call it that. The county gravel pit has changed. So this Google photo, it didn't look like this at all when these events took place. But what we're trying to show here is that the pelvic bones were found in an area in that upper right-hand corner.
So up here, at the white dot up here. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And then down here below, there were two bone piles that were less than 50 yards apart.
Right here and here, guys.
Yep.
There's two white dots there, just so you can make sure you see those.
So half a football length apart, but this distance between the pelvic bones, suspected human pelvic bones, and these other two burn piles is over 400 meters. It's over a quarter of a mile away.
Right.
And so we'll come back to this, but Zellner's been tweeting all day today about the fact that the jury never heard about 3 bone piles during the trial. They only heard about one bone pile in that upper right-hand corner where the pelvic bones were.
Oh. Okay.
So we can go back now to the motion.
Okay. So so this is Dr. Eisenberg, the possible human pelvic bone in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. And Dr. Eisenberg was never questioned about the other two, the two that were down lower that I was pointing out to you guys that were really close together. She never was asked or said or offered any kind of testimony on those, basically.
And she points out what you have been saying for a long time, Eric Jose, is how, and others. How could you be found guilty, not guilty of mutilation, but guilty of murder?
Right.
And so she's pointing out that for the court. So
yeah, it's significant to me. That a lot of people have suspected that was the jury trying to send up a red flag because they felt helpless against these people, that the people in there that were just dead set on getting him guilty. Basically, a lot of people reasoned that the deal ended up getting made because they felt it would send up a red flag. It's a theory. Right. But it sounds like a pretty good theory, pretty good guess to me.
So this next red box is she's anticipating a counter argument. So she says, regardless of the mutilation charge, the potential identification of her bones in the pit is relevant and material evidence on the issue of the location of the murder, the mutilation of the body, and the planting of evidence to frame him for murder. So she wants to make clear to the court that if someone made the counter argument, well, this is only relevant to mutilation or him chopping up the body and spreading it out over. She's saying, no, don't get drawn down that path. This evidence, if you let me test it, what I'm going to bring you is going to show you the location of the murder.
Right. Right. So that's significant, because if the murder happened somewhere other than where the prosecution said it happened, that does what? It undermines confidence in the verdict.
Perfect. Yep.
So, according to the state, the murder allegedly occurred in Mr. Avery's garage and the mutilation in his burn pit. Yeah, very similar. Okay, so on December 6th of 2018, current post-conviction counsel contacted Dr. Selden on behalf of Mr. Avery for the review of photographs and laboratory reports. So there you go, folks. She found out about this on December 6th, or very close to December 6th, and December 6th is when she reached out to him. That's, I imagine, why this got so, right up to the deadline of her brief. Because this, I think she really just discovered this at the beginning of December, in my opinion. Let's see here. So we got forensic anthropology photos depicting bones, recovery from the quarry, piles south of Avery salvage. Okay. So.
Yeah, and those photos were taken by Eisenberg, the forensic anthropologist. Those photos that she's referring to.
Okay. All right. Each of the above listed items of evidence was recovered from the Manitowoc County gravel pit.
And while we're going through this real briefly, I want everybody to try and remember what her tweets were yesterday in the Q&A about whether the hall box would object to this evidence being tested, and little things she said, assuming the state still has the bones. So she wants item 7411. It's in quarry pile number 3. Wants 7412. 13, 14, and 16. I've put red boxes around 7411, 12, 14, and 16. We'll come to those in a second. So those are in pile 3, and one of those is in 1. And then 4 more items, 7419, 7422, 7424, and 8675. I've highlighted in red too, 7419, 8675. 8675 is a real big one, because what is that? Possible human burned cut pelvis fragments. The 7 in number, N equals 7, 7 in number.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the pelvic bones. They're in quarry pile number 1, which is again over 400 yards from 2 and 3.
Right.
So let's go back up just real briefly.
Mm-hmm.
7411, 7412, 7414, 7416, scroll down. 19 and 8675. Some of those numbers were just banging a hole through the back of my head. And it was because I'd recently watched Allie's video on the bones that were returned to the Hallbach family. And it was also because I'd recently gone through Adrian's notes about queso. So let's go to queso in the excerpts. So that's a total of 9 sets of bones. Now I want the ones with just my quick excerpts.
That one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there was 9 things she requested, and I put a red box on 6. This is queso. Scroll up so they know we're not playing, goofy games with them. This is page 1114 of queso. Any of you can pull it up. 9/20/11. That's 5 years post-trial. On 9/20/11, Mark Uyghur, Attorney Fallon, and Norman Gahn, who are both with the AG's office and were both trial counsel, neither one of which is on the appeal anymore. They were both substituted out this summer. They reviewed the items under the property tags along with Dr. Eisenberg's report, not her, but a report, determined which bones could be returned to the Halbach family. First item, 8675. That's the pelvic bones. They returned those to the Halbachs
Mm-hmm.
in what year? 2011.
It was 2011, 920. Yeah, 920.
Scroll down. 7411, 7412, 7414, 7416, 7419. That's 5 plus 8675 is 6 items. All of those items I've highlighted are items that were returned to the Halbachs 5 years ago.
So you guys are understanding the dilemma there, right?
Oh man.
Yeah, it's wild.
It'll sink in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, we were showing you in the master list of these items that she was asking for, and here in Queso we find out that all of these items, well, 6 of the 9, right, that she asked for, it was 6 of the 9 9 items that she asked for in total, wasn't it?
She asked for 9 items that
Right.
her expert reviewed all of the pictures.
Right.
There's 9 sets of bones. They're not individual bones. Each one of those items could be a handful of bones.
Groups of bones, right.
But he said, I want 9. 6 of them, they don't even have. And what's really interesting is that the AG's office would have been talking to Catherine Zellner in 2017 about letting her microscopically test the pelvic bones. And they kept delaying. And then Judge Angie decided that motion out of the blue.
Yeah.
They didn't have the pelvic bones to test.
Right. So that's going to create a problem, obviously, because.
Well, Linda Kay, that is a possibility. If they weren't supposed to get rid of those bones because they could potentially be tested. Now, if those bones were buried in a what on earth were they negotiating on last summer in 2017 to microscopically test pelvic bones? I mean, what the heck were they talking about?
Right. Yeah. Why? Yeah. What did she hope to learn from that? Right.
So, and then it raises questions about the brilliance of Kathleen Zellner and her strategy. Is this one of those things where she's done this intentionally? She hasn't laid this part out, so us armchair detectives go out and look at this ourselves? Or is this something that, I can't imagine she's missed it. She didn't miss anything.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So let's see here. Let's see what everybody's saying. So are you saying that Zellner knew this info and therefore purposely requested those bones? That's a possibility. I don't know that that's the case, but it's a possibility. But the fact of the matter is her reasoning is sound. If she tests those bones and they come back to Teresa, it undermines the confidence in the verdict, because Stephen Avery is not going to go dragging bones from the Manitowoc gravel pit to his own front door. That's just not going to happen. No matter how stupid you are, you're not going to do that. I'll tell you what, isn't it kind of interesting that she was in negotiations with Fallon and Gahn and all that stuff to get obviously these bones, to do a microscopic examination on them? Not sure what that would have yielded, but she was asking for them to do that. But we also know that she was asking for the skull fragments. Okay. And I'm wondering what happened here. I mean, obviously there's no mention of the skull fragments here, but she wanted to get those too. back then, and they were about to agree to it when suddenly Judge Angie drops the hammer and just kills everything basically, so that now that deal that Zellner was making with the state and Fallon and Gahn and whatever disappeared, faded away. Okay, so that is basically some excerpts from the video that I did about Zellner's motion for the quick DNA testing. As I explained before, the idea was to prove definitively that the bones found in the Manitowoc County gravel pit were Teresa's, and therefore that would indicate that the original burn site was not Avery's burn pit but elsewhere, and that therefore it would be ridiculous to think that Stephen Avery would have brought bones from the original burn site back to his own front doorstep. But in the process of going through Zellner's motion for the quick DNA testing, we realized that in queso, a lot of the bones that she was referring to, a lot of the groups of bones that she was referring to that had possible human bone in them that she wanted to test, that bones had been taken from those groups and given back to the Hall box already in 2011. So that's what made this whole thing interesting. So it raises the question of, did they already give these bones back to the Hall box? If they did, it basically seems to me like basically it's a stipulation that the state, I think by that act, stipulates that the bones are Teresa's, and therefore, the testing on the bones that have been given back, if they have been, wouldn't I would think be moot and unnecessary. But it appears that there's 3 groups of bones that they didn't give the Hall box bones. They didn't give the Hall box any bones from those. So potentially the bones that she wanted from those groups would still be there for her to test. So it's interesting stuff. Obviously, we're going to be finding out more. I know tonight we're going to be covering the state's response to her motion for quick DNA testing. So that's going to be coming a little later after this, folks. So be staying tuned for that. And then for those of you, the faithful who are still here at the end of the video watching, I have one more bonus segment, one more little thing to add in, and that is the magic bullet. The magic bullet is absolutely freaking ridiculous. It's one of the things, another one of the things in this case that cries out, just this is a sham. And so before I show you this, I want to give you the little backstory. The way that the timeline goes is that supposedly, according to the prosecution, that on the 31st, Stephen shoots Teresa with the .22 rifle or whatever in the garage there. Okay, that means that the bullet item, FL, the bullet, the slug, that was under the compressor, would be there on October 31st. We know that when they took over the Avery salvage yard after on the 5th or 6th or whatever and stuff, we know that they eventually found a crack in Stephen's garage, and they jackhammered that crack. They jackhammered that crack, and that just created a bunch of dust, huge amount of dust everywhere. It got, and then anybody that has any kind of experience with concrete dust knows that it's that it gets everywhere. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to be showing you right now is this bullet. You're going to clearly see, and it even has like a bowl shape on top. It's concaved, right? So it has like a bowl shape that would certainly have caught dust and stuff like that. What's more is that this little piece of lead and copper is sitting on top of the concrete dust, and if it had been there truly, and the concrete dust had fallen around it, it would be like buried by the concrete dust mostly. It would not be sitting on top of the veins of concrete dust. So these are the few of the issues I have. Wanted to go ahead and show you guys one last bonus item here, and that is the bullet. And you go ahead and look at this picture right now and just think about the things I was just explaining and make your own judgment for yourself whether or not, hopefully those of you who have experience with concrete dust and know what it's like when you break up concrete, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about right here. It's just going to jump right out at you. So here we go. All right, so folks, this is the magic bullet. I bring this up because I have serious issues with this. And those people out there that are like in construction who have worked with concrete or breaking up concrete before are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. They're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. You see this, all this concrete dust you're seeing all over around this thing? Look, all this stuff here, all of that over there. All this stuff here. All this stuff you see going underneath the bullet here. That's all concrete dust. Okay? All concrete dust. This concrete dust got there when they were jackhammering the crack in the garage because they were sure that they were going to find signs of Teresa in that crack or blood, something. They didn't. But they jackhammered that crack. Do you see what's interesting here? Do you notice that this bullet that's supposedly supposed to have been there since the 31st is sitting on top of the concrete dust? Okay, the bullet would have been there before the concrete dust. So how is it that this bullet has zero concrete dust and is sitting on top of the veins of concrete dust? This is the question that you have to ask yourself, because if that bullet were there when when that crack were being jackhammered, it would also be covered with dust. And you can even see on top, it's kind of bowl-shaped. It's kind of concave, like bowl-shaped. There would undoubtedly be some concrete dust and stuff in that concave shape on the top of the bullet there. So this is another one of the main issues with the Avery and Dassey cases.